Hi, I'm Mitra Sorrells in the PhocusWire studio at Phocuswright Europe, and I am joined by Ross Veitch from Wego. Welcome.
Thanks, Mitra. Great to be back.
Yes, glad to see you. So I'd love to talk about what's been happening with Wego and what's been happening with some of the markets that you are very active in. So I know Wego began with kind of a Southeast Asia focus,
Correct.
But then over the last decade or so, you've been building up your business in the Middle East. That's kind of become the hot area that everybody seems to be talking about right now. What is your take on what's happening in the Middle East with travel?
Correct. Yeah, I mean, so Wego is a global platform, but it's really the MENA region that we've sort of been focusing on for the best part of a decade now. It's where most of our user base is. It's where most of the the bookings are driven from. It's over $1 billion in GMV a year now coming off the platform, and MENA as a region has bounced back pretty strongly from COVID.
Yeah.
So I think US, North America was first to come back, then I think Western Europe, Middle East was pretty quick behind Europe, and then sort of you got sort of Southeast Asia, and then sort of China as the laggard. Our business, we're about 15%, so year to date 2023, about 15% above our 2019 levels.
Oh, wow.
And forward bookings for summer are looking very good. Like a lot of travel companies, we had to take some cost out during COVID, but we also looked at all aspects of our business, and we found a lot more efficiencies, particularly in the marketing and the acquisition side. So we're substantially more profitable now than we were going into it.
That's great.
Very happy about that. And so Middle East markets generally have a lot of the world at the moment, and a lot of the talk at the conference here, they're talking about recessions and high inflation rates, and consumers beginning to get a little bit cautious with their spending, and what are they going to cut? Is it going to be they're going to travel less, or are they going to move the sort of the discretionary travel away from the peak? So the Middle East is booming. So oil is still relatively high, and that just flows straight through to everything in the consumer economy. And prices for airfares are much higher than they used to be. People are traveling anyway.
Wow.
Yeah.
And can you tell me, I'm curious specifically with some of those Middle East destinations, where are you seeing the traffic coming from that's coming into there? And also, where do you see those travelers going to? Yeah,
I mean, so our business is really MENA as a point of sale.
Okay.
But like in most parts of the world, people travel in sort of concentric circles, right? So you get a lot of intra-Gulf and sort of intra-MENA regions. So you'll get people from the Gulf traveling over to Egypt or Turkey, and then further afield, we do a lot of volume out to Western Europe, so Mediterranean countries popular. London's always big for us.
Okay.
And then further afield, there's a lot in the sort of Gulf, South Asia corridor, so India, Pakistan, and then we send a lot to Southeast Asia, so Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, all big destinations for us. And then in terms of inbound, Saudi's becoming significant.
Yeah.
So they've been obviously been spending a lot, both in marketing and building the brand, but also building the product. Like the amount of money going into building tourism infrastructure and creating tourism product from scratch is unprecedented. So that's been really interesting to watch. They have a very interesting event-driven strategy. So there's tons and tons of sort of like concerts, business events, things like the Formula One that are sort of bringing people to the kingdom the first time. Then they're sort of like sticking around and having a look. So that seems to be working.
That's very interesting, maybe as a way to kind of get people to like try it out.
Correct.
You create this compelling experience that it's like they don't want to miss that.
Correct.
And it just happens to be in Saudi Arabia, and so then.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, that's it.
Dubai, having a good year. Russell Kamer up the road, we do a lot of work with them. They're having a good year. They've obviously got the the Wynn integrated resort on the horizon, so that's really generated a lot of buzz for the Northern Emirate.
Yeah, of course, the big talk, certainly in the U.S. in the last couple of weeks, has been this PGA deal and what that is going to mean with Saudi Arabia. So I'm curious just to talk a bit more about Saudi Arabia. They also have a new airline, Riyadh Air. Is that correct?
Yeah, Riyadh Air is coming. They announced their purple livery last week. Looks quite good.
So do you see a lot of growth there in the next, 5, 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, so effectively they're setting up a full-blown full-service carrier to go head-to-head with the other big Gulf carriers. It'll be based in Riyadh. And from our perspective, we run a travel marketplace.
Right.
The more carriers, the better, because the more competition, it's good for us, it's good for consumers.
Right.
And it's going to be interesting. So you'll have Saudia hubbed out of Jeddah, and you're going to have Riyadh Air hubbed out of Riyadh. I think the strategy seems to be, Saudia will focus a lot more on the sort of the Hajj and Umrah market and maybe some of the labor traffic.
Yep.
And I think Riyadh Air will be for the inbound tourists coming into the kingdom, and for Saudis traveling outbound, I think.
And do you see it really taking off and booming even more? Like, I'm just trying to think ahead 5, 10 years. Do you envision that Saudi Arabia is going to really be a top destination?
I wouldn't bet against it. They need to diversify away from oil, and tourism is one of the industries that they're betting on.
Yeah.
And they've obviously got a ton of seed capital that's going into it, and they've got a lot of smart people, making the investments and calling the shots. So
yeah,
some
challenges there, of course, as well. I think maybe for them, but as you said, some of those creative marketing strategies may.
But it's not all marketing. The kingdom is changing really fast.
Yeah.
If you haven't been there recently, I encourage you to get on a plane and check it out. So,
okay, that's very interesting.
It's not all PR.
Okay, that's great to hear. I trust your opinion on that. Let's talk a bit more about Wego. So I understand you started obviously with the meta business, but then now you've created this OTA model. What's happening there, and what are you seeing?
Yeah, so we started our life as good old-fashioned meta search, and we experimented with various forms of facilitated or assisted booking over the years. And every time a lot of our users thought they were booking with us, even when they weren't, that we're sending off to partners. Our customer support teams were dealing with that. And when we surveyed users, we're asking, what would you like us to do? What features would you like us to add? It's like, we'd just like to be able to book with you.
Right.
So we've got to a point where we have the way we think about Wego a little bit like Amazon or Alibaba to e-commerce, right? So they're vibrant marketplaces. There's lots of different sellers, but Alibaba and Amazon are one of the merchants who are on the shelf.
Right.
And if you book with us directly, it'll be easier because you've probably registered with us previously. You've got your travel profile. We've got your payment information, and the idea is to make it super simple to get in and out.
Yeah.
But we will also show you the whole market, right? So if you want to book direct with a carrier, that's an option. You want to book with one of our other OTAs, it's fine with us too.
And so are you seeing growth in that consumer interest to book directly?
Yeah, it's going quite well.
Yeah.
What's interesting, a lot of our OTA partners are now our B2B suppliers.
Right.
So effectively, they're on the shelf multiple times. So if they
Right.
book with them, they win. If they book with us, they also win.
Yeah.
So it's been an interesting transition.
So I have to ask you about, of course, the hot topic of the day right now, which is generative AI, ChatGPT, all of this. I'm curious, how, if at all, you may be using it at Wego, and what you may be thinking about it for the future.
Okay. I mean, all the teams are using it. We gave everybody OpenAI Plus accounts, and sort of strongly suggested they start figuring out how to use it in their daily work. I think maybe half of what I used to send to Google I'm now sending to ChatGPT or Bing or Bard.
Okay.
So just drafting term sheets, outlining it's incredibly useful. So is that sort of like what productivity stuff everybody's encouraged to use it? All the coders are using GitHub Copilot or Google's equivalent.
Right.
That's been very good for productivity. But I think the big players, so Microsoft, Google, OpenAI, probably Amazon, a few others to come. They're all going to create new assistants or it's probably going to be chat mediated or chat plus. They'll start adding more more ways of interacting. These are going to become new gatekeepers. So in the same way that Google is a gatekeeper today, or
Right.
iOS and Android are sort of gatekeepers as platforms that we need to figure out how to distribute within. So
Right.
these new intelligent assistants will become gatekeepers. And so the initial way to play the game is to build plugins.
Right.
We've already seen the first of those roll off the shelf.
Yep.
I think long term, maybe a better strategy, or I think the way it's going to evolve, I think the AIs are going to get smart enough to figure out how to use the consumer front ends that we've already built for humans to use, or to figure out how to go and find our APIs if we build them clearly enough and document them well enough. So I'm not entirely sure the plugins are going to be a long-term thing, or needed
So you're not
long-term.
developing one right now?
No, we are. I mean,
you are, okay, yeah.
We're doing everything.
Yeah.
But I longer term, I think there's probably more payoff from going back and revisiting all the APIs, making sure they're super fast. You're exposing every possible method. They're really well documented with examples that the AI can run through, figure out how to use them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ranking, so SEO is obviously still going to be important.
Yeah.
But instead of sending you to a web page, it's going to send you to an API or a service. So that's still important. And then something we're working on at the moment is trying to build a sort of like a voice/chat interface to our mobile app. So the objective is to make it possible to interact with, a bit like you would over the table with a real expert travel agent.
Right.
So sort of a remote control to the app. So I need to get to Barcelona by midday Monday for a conference. What are my flight options? Okay, what if I want to avoid the layovers?
Right.
Okay, can I afford business? What's the option? Okay, what if I go a day earlier?
Right.
Should be able to do all this. So a bit like a remote control to the app. So faster than having to figure out the interface.
Yeah.
And then the ability to sort of sort and filter, and then overlay additional insights from all the data sets that we've got, via either via the existing interface or via sort of a text interface that we're adding, or to tap into everything the large language models know about the outside world.
That's
and then trying to overlay our rich content and links and calls to action from that. So that's in the kitchen still. It's not ready. I was hoping to be able to demo it.
Oh, well,
it's taking a bit longer.
So here's what goes through my mind as you hear you talking about all that those potential use cases. Are there things that you at Wego had to stop doing in order to devote the energy and the resources to start working on this?
Yeah, we pulled a bunch of engineers and product people off other stuff, and
Did
sort
you?
of locked them in a room for a couple of weeks to get started on this.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. I mean, have you ever seen? You've been in this industry a long time. Have you ever seen anything like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think this kind of inflection point with the sort of Gen AI is maybe comparable to the internet itself being created in terms of the impact it's going to have on everything.
Yeah.
Our industry, but life in general.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really a fascinating time,
Yeah.
to just see what's developing. So.
I mean, what's fascinating is a lot of the tech existed a year ago, but the guys at OpenAI sort of did this round of reinforced learning human feedback and sort of built this chat interface, and suddenly it was incredibly accessible. And so it's been fascinating to watch how quickly it's now moving and being adopted.
Yeah.
It's going to go exponential because you're going to have sort of AIs working to improve AIs.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Hard to forecast.
Yeah, a lot to watch and see how it develops. Great. Well, Ross from Wego, thank you so much for talking to us.
Thanks, Mitra.
All right. Thank you.